What's good? Thanks again for WillGil, the Hip Hop Review Podcast, coming on, chatting with us about podcasting, the podcasting game in general, and just hip hop overall, some of his favorite albums and everything like that. This is actually an episode from the vault that we recorded some months ago. Slowly but surely going through that vault, trying to get these episodes out and bring some new content to you guys as well. Please be sure to check us out at channel10podcast.com. Hit us up at channel10podcast@gmail.com. Keep up with me at singulartoperior.com. Keep up with the Almighty AR, thealmightyar.com. And again, thanks for checking out this episode and stay tuned for more. Peace.
Channel 10.
Like CNN, Channel 10. And we used to think that people would catch on.
You know,
but if you're not from Queens, if you don't got Time Warner or whatever, like, well, I didn't know that.
Do it, yo. Yo, word up, man. It's a different channel, son. Word up, hold on, man. Word up, watch the channel, son. Different plane now, man.
It's all good.
Word up, all good, baby, in every hood, son. Word up, yo. CNN, Network, Channel 10. It's on again. Street niggas, it's grown men. Bold face, gather your face. Stay in place, yo, crime lace. Cast more beef than Scarface. CNN, Network, Channel 10. It's on again. Street niggas, that's grown men. Bold face, gather your face. Stay in place, yo, crime lace. Cast more beef.
Once again, we're back. This is the Channel 10 podcast. It is I, the Almighty AR, Artic in the building, and I'm alongside
Singular Superior.
And once again, this is the Channel 10 podcast, and today we are graced by a very special guest by the name of WillGil from the Hip Hop Review Podcast. Say what's up to the people.
Hey, what up, people? Hey, I'm happy to be on this podcast, man. I feel good.
That's what's up, man. It's very rare that, we get to talk to another podcaster. I think the only one that we had was Sean Sotero from The Cypher. So, it's pretty interesting to be able to speak to somebody who's kind of on the same type of wavelength as us. So, with your podcast, the Hip Hop Review Podcast, what was the impetus for you guys just going ahead and jumping into it and starting that?
Well, I used to go on YouTube all the time, and I used to see all these reviews, like this guy named Anthony Fantano, and then obviously Dead in Hip Hop. And then Anthony, who I felt was like one of my favorite reviewers, he used to always kind of like not really show a lot of love to hip hop, and I was always disappointed by that. And then Dead in Hip Hop, they were dope, but they were only on YouTube. So what I was trying to do is I didn't want to just be another YouTuber talking about albums and stuff like that. And so we started looking towards podcasters, and we saw that that was kind of missing in that lane. So, we came together and just tried to fill that spot.
Okay. Now, did you, previously have any experience in music, like either working on it on the industry or anything like that?
Nah, man. What we try to do is just be like two normal dudes, like really just like some homies coming together talking hip hop. We not like on like some real nerd stuff, like really breaking down everything. We just want you to, our listeners to feel like they just two homies, just regular dudes. Like if you hop on Twitter and just kind of like gauge how people are feeling, that's kind of like what we try to bring on our podcast. Just some normal dudes just talking hip hop and just breaking down how we feel.
Okay, that's what's up. And, listening back to a couple of your episodes, I can, kind of get a sense for, your guys' taste in music. I know you said that you're more leaning towards like the lyricism aspect of music and everything like that. So I was wondering, like, what were some of your earliest memories and some of your earliest influences when it comes to the music?
Yeah, all right. One of my first favorite rappers was Nas. And I remember I used to be so into Nas, I used to write down his lyrics. I used to change like things here and there and try to tell people like I wrote that shit just to try to impress people. That's like how much like Nas meant to me. I grew up like in a pretty rough neighborhood, so like a lot of things he was saying, like the storytelling he was painting picture with, like it related to me a lot. And then like And I always wanted people to think that I was able to write shit like that. So I used to always be like, change little things here and there on Nas lyrics and tell people that was my shit. So I grew up listening to Nas. Actually, like I would say Stillmatic was like my first album that like I really like memorized back to back and was like, that's my first favorite album of all time. And from there, it just kind of expanded. But yeah, definitely Nas and Stillmatic was where I really started paying attention to lyrics. And specifically, it was One Mic where that got me into that album.
Where are you from?
East Palo Alto. It's in the Bay Area in California.
Okay, now you talk about the Stillmatic. I think you are a bit younger than me, at least. Now I remember around that time, that was the whole Takeover and Ether situation, and I remember just all of the controversy and everything surrounding that. Do you remember that time at all?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because my pops was a big Jay-Z fan. He used to always bump Jay. And then so we always kind of had a little thing where I'd be like, man, shut that shit off. And when I'd be in the car, because I'm just riding on Stillmatic so hard all the time, I'm like, oh, man, dick sucking lips. Like, like, man, turn that shit off. And then he was like, what, you trying to kick knowledge? And I'd be like, man, shut up.
How does he feel now that Black Republicans came out?
yeah, that's it had me confused for a minute. It took me a solid like couple of months to understand, like really digest what was going on because my feelings were so strong after Ether in that time.
That's dope. I think Nas, for me, I would have to say he's my number one rapper of all time. I definitely have to put him in that spot, and I'd probably say Pac number two. I know you said Pac was number one for you, right?
Yeah, yep. Coming out the West is just he's just spoke to so many people out here that he related sonically and like the songs he wrote related more to somebody coming up on the West Coast. Like Nas was really heavy on that East Coast stuff, and to be honest, like a lot of the stuff he was talking about, like I just don't get it because I'm not from out there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I guess now I just listened to your review of J. Cole's latest album, which is interesting because we sat down and listened to it, and it's definitely not my favorite J. Cole project, but it's interesting that he is so different from Pac and from a completely different place in East or West Coast. But you were saying about how you can definitely in a lot of J. Cole tracks hear some type of influences and things that make you think about Pac or kind of harken back to that. And it's the same thing with Kendrick too. I didn't get a chance to listen to your Kendrick. Hear you talk about Kendrick, but how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I think what Cole and Kendrick do that like Pac does, like they're able to write music that directly relates to the people listening to their music. And like a lot of artists, they kind of just like they stay in their own lane, they do their own stuff, and they like just create this sound. But what Pac, Nas, Kendrick, Cole do, they're able to make music for the people that listen to the music. And I think that's why a lot of their fans go so hard because it just relates to them personally and they feel like they have a connection with this artist that they don't even know. And I think that's what really makes those kind of artists special.
Right. And I guess that goes to like the strategy that you take with the podcast. It's not going like, being two regular people who can kind of relate to the listener and deliver, opinions that the regular person can kind of, get into and listen to. When you first got into, podcasting and everything like that, what type of goals did you set? And like, did you really know what you were doing or did you like learn things along the way?
Yeah. Goal-wise, we really just had like the smallest goal you could have. We just be like, let's just put it out and just hope it grow. Like literally, like we just trying to put out content and hope people fuck with it. And then growing-wise, yeah, we grown a lot. Honestly, I could barely talk like 2 minutes without having to stop and think about what I'm saying or having or like stuttering over my words. So our first, like I would say 15 15 episodes, like I don't even like that shit no more. Like I be going back thinking about like wanting to delete our old episode just because when I hear it, I'd be like, damn, this shit suck.
You know, that's kind of funny though, man. Like, because I went back and listened to the very first episode, the J-Rock episode.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys seem very natural, so I just kind of assumed that, you know, both of you guys had some kind of radio background, because if you go to our first episodes, they're like 3 hours, and they're just terrible.
Oh, you know what's funny about, you said the 3-hour episode? Our first episode we ever recorded was Travis Scott's first debut album. And that episode was like 3 hours long. We got fucked up. You know, we were overly excited. And then we sat back and we listened to it. We was like, look, man, we can't release this shit.
So
we definitely hear you. Yeah. So it's a process, man. I feel like with anything you do, you just gotta just jump feet first, and then whatever happens, you just take those punches and then just keep it pushing, and that's what we try to do.
That's what's up. And it's like, you know, it's definitely important, I think, I think the dope thing that I think about podcasting is it's like leaving something behind for the culture. Like, and I know that sounds kind of cliche, but, you know, it's something that somebody can go back to and like, oh, this is what was going on in the zeitgeist of this time. And, or, you know, if we have an interview with somebody, you know, it's like, okay, this is something that they might have said only here, and you can only go here to get that, but it puts the historical perspective, you know, together for the music that we do. And it's, you know, can be long form. I know that sometimes the episodes can be long, but, you know, it's something different than a YouTube video where people are just looking for 5 minutes or something like that. And so I was just wondering, when it comes to the way that you guys structure it, like, do you guys go out and look for like sponsorships and things like that, or, you know, are you still like more so in the growing process?
Yeah, we definitely want to eventually get sponsorship, because, you know, at the end of the day, you guys understand, you put it in time that eventually you want to see some financial gain from it. But we so new and like still growing that our goal isn't to find sponsorship at the moment. And I ain't gonna lie, they ain't hitting us up. So,
right.
You know, it is what it is. It's a two-way street. But all we can do, what we're trying to do, is just focus on putting out good content. I figure as long as we could put out episodes that people enjoy, that are easy to listen to, and just grind it out and not worry about all that extra stuff, eventually, you know, we'll put in the time and hopefully something good come our way. We're just putting in goodwill at this point. So, yeah, we're just trying to grind it out right now.
And you know, that's the thing. Like, you guys are really, really consistent. And, you know, I know, like, at the beginning, you know, starting out with this podcast, it was fun doing it, which is probably why they were 2 hours. And then after a while, especially since, you know, our podcast is a bit more guest-based, it's really hard to be consistent. So are you and Vaughn at the point where, you know, you just grinding it out, is it kind of difficult just kind of maintaining that consistency week by week at this point?
Yeah, for sure. There's the recording aspect of the podcast is like the fun part. Like, it's good. Like, every time I'm there, I'm like, this is why I do this shit. Like, I enjoy talking to you. Like, this is fun. But the prep part, when I be prepping, I really be like, how long do I want to do this for free? You know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, especially like a lot of times I'm listening to albums that I don't even like. And so I'm spending hours re-listening to albums, trying to pick things apart, write my thoughts down, be funny, be clever. And I'm really just doing this off the strength of, you know, I love hip hop. And there's only so long that I feel like I could do that and give up so much time and not see some financial gain. Not that like the money's just always on my mind, but it's just like time is something I can't get back. And so, yeah, I do. That does cross my mind a lot. Be like, how long do I want to do this and spend so much energy, so much time that I could put on other things? But right now, it's still all love. Like, everything feel good. Like, damn, like I still love getting I still love getting hit up on Twitter. Like for me, like that's where I find where it makes things worth it. Like somebody hit me up, drop a review. I read the review, it's positive. Like that shit feels good. I go on Twitter, I get engagement on Twitter. Like that shit feels good. And as of right now, like that's keeping me going, and it reminds me why I'm doing this.
What are some of like, or have you had any like milestone moments where you were like, wow, like I didn't know that we could take it this far?
We got shouted out by Peter Rosenberg once on Twitter, and that was pretty dope. I would say that's probably about like the dopest thing that's happened to us so far. And I remember I was just like stuck staring at the screen. I was just like, damn, Peter Rosenberg, I watch you on YouTube all the time.
That's crazy. I mean, you never know who's listening. That's, you know, the one thing that we have discovered in life.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, I guess balancing podcasting and regular life, you know, I have it to where, you know, sometimes I might be at work or something and somebody might ask me like, what am I doing this weekend? And I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I'm just recording this podcast. And then you have to, and then they're like, what's that? And you have to explain it. Like, do you ever find yourself in those situations?
Yeah. Especially if I'm talking to older people, I don't even say podcast when I'm talking to somebody like over 40. I just be like, oh, I got this radio show on iTunes. And they're like, oh, okay, what you talk about? And I'll be like, oh, hip hop, and it's pretty much dead from there. And they'd be like, oh, okay, have fun. But it's cool. And then like it's funny because with like the younger generation, I feel like being a podcaster to like the younger generation at some point is going to be like being a rapper. It's because I feel like so many people now are becoming podcasters, which is dope. That's a great thing. It's like all these opportunities are opening up for people. But like, I really feel like the market now is really becoming saturated to the point where, you know, people, I remember in the early 2000s, it's like everybody wanted to be a rapper. And like, I feel now that with this new platform, it's like everybody wants to figure out a way to have a podcast. And I'm just glad that, you know, you guys did it. We did it. At least we got in early, you know, so we grow before this thing gets a little too crazy.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. And, you know, just you know, going back to just like the you guys' podcast in general, like, you guys have looks like you guys have like a pretty dope setup. So I know you guys use Logic right now, but how has like you and Vaughn's setup for the podcast evolved over time at this point?
Yeah, to be honest, what makes me and Vontae cool, like a perfect little matchup, is he's like a rapper producer, so he really like been trying to grow in that industry, and so he has all the technical stuff set up. So honestly, like I don't know any of that stuff. I just show up. So the fact that you know that we record on Logic like blows my mind. Like I don't understand how you know that, but but yeah, that's all Vontae. That's all him. I don't know any of that stuff.
Okay. And you know, I know that you said, you know, the preparation is you know, sometimes the hard part. After you do a show and, you know, it's time to do all the editing, I know you said he does all that and put it up and promote it. Is that, like, can that be a bit stressful too, or do you just put it out there and then, you know, it just kind of picks up?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's stressful at all. I would say the Twitter part is probably one of the more fun parts of like the podcasting game, is, you know, reaching out to people. You know, sometimes you don't get hit back, which is cool. You just take it on the chin. But yeah, I love fan engagement, putting out episodes, especially, you know, when you think you have a good episode and you about to release it, it feels good. So that never really feels like a grind to me.
That's what's up. And do you plan on like you know, having any type of guest-based episodes or expanding in that area?
Yeah, we definitely want to get more into it. That's kind of the reason why I've been trying to get on more podcasts, meet more people, and try to expand like that. And then, yeah, we definitely want to have people come on our podcast, because right now I feel like with podcasting, like it's all love all around. So I just want to meet people while everybody willing to get met.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you know, what's so refreshing, like having you on. Like, you know, we were talking a little before we started recording this, me and Artic, and just the difference between having a podcaster on as a guest on the show and like having like an artist in general, totally different. Like you just asked, if we wanted you to record your vocals and stuff like that, it's just much easier, and then on time.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. I definitely ain't about to have a show coming on next or nothing like that, so we don't have to rush. We could really work this out.
Yeah. We've had some interesting experiences. Like, oh, I forgot I was supposed to be doing this. I'm at a show.
Oh man, yeah.
And situations like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool, the whole podcasting community, because and like I know other people have talked about this before, but it's competitive, but it's more so like we're all in this together. Like, with rap, it's kind of like, oh, what's this guy doing? We gotta do this and that, and it is collaborative, but every time you get on a track with somebody, it's like you're trying to kill that person on the track, where here it's not like I'm trying to kill you on the podcast.
Yeah.
We
like,
just get to have a conversation.
It's like, those interview questions was dope, but those answers was even better. Like, it's none of that going on. So, yeah, I definitely hear what you saying.
Yeah. And, when it comes to, being in the media space, like, do you have any other types of aspirations when it comes to I guess being in hip hop and media? Because, now that you have a platform, I guess you are in hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're not just a regular person. So do you have like any other aspirations on growing in the field?
Nah, man. Really, my only aspiration is just to put out just dope content. That's all I want to do. And like anything that happens out from that comes from that's just like an expansion of me putting out good work. So really, right now, we so new and we like still growing that I honestly don't want to look past just like focusing on putting out good work. Gotcha. So now, man, right now, just no further aspirations besides putting out dope work.
That's what's up. And I like how your episodes are structured. You guys start off with like a highlight standout song that you want to do, and then you might get into some general talk, and then you maybe talk about some things that you don't like, before you wrap it up. So I guess during your show preparation, do you guys sit down and create the outline for that?
When we first started, we would have to kind of like communicate more about what direction we're going with the episode and how we're going to break things down. We're like at episode 64 now. And so the structure has been like repeated 64 times. So it's nice because we don't have to discuss too much. It's just like, oh, this is my highlight record, just so like you don't have the same highlight record. And then from there, we just kind of wing everything, man. But, it just comes with practice.
Yeah.
Now, when you guys, at the very beginning of your episodes, when you guys say which number episode it is, and you guys like kind of refer to like a sports player's jersey number.
Yeah.
Is that,
yeah.
Is that like straight off the cuff or what?
It was because actually when we reached episode number 7, Lamar Odom was going through like, when he popped all those erectile dysfunction pills and over right. We was at episode number 7, and I just made like a terrible joke about Lamar Odom and it being episode number 7, and then Vontae, he's more of the artist from us two, and he was like, you know what, that's kind of dope, and he was like, let's do an athlete number, and then it was cool because it was real easy, but once we got up to like the 50s and 60s, like it got real hard. Like a lot of times when I'm like, I have to Google all these athletes, try to figure out like who wears 64. Like nobody can answer that question. So, and I go on Google, I half the time I don't even know these athletes who I'm naming off. I'm just trying to, fill the quota at this point. But it is what it is. When we was like, when we got to like episode number 23, like when we got episode number Michael Jordan 23, like I was like, oh shit, it's lit. And now we're at 64. It's like offensive lineman. album 64. It don't have the same sting, but it's kind of our thing, so we just gotta stick with it.
Yeah, but damn, but like now, like when you guys get to the triple digits though, then what?
Oh yeah, well we reached to 99. We starting over. We figure we'll go season 2, episode 1.
Oh damn, okay. On some Juan Epstein type shit.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start over.
Now, one episode that well, I have two that stuck out to me, and it's because of like you just had some scathing reviews, and I can only imagine like how much like prep work that it took to do this. So, No Ceilings 2.
Oh man.
And both of you guys said that it's like 19 tracks, and some of you, and then you guys did like listen to it like more than once. So I know it took a lot of time and effort to listen to those songs and actually try to figure out why you didn't like it. So how long did it take for you to prep for that particular episode?
Yeah, man, I'm glad you brought that up, man, because when I'm talking about like doing prep work and that No Ceiling 2, like, man, that had to be like one of the worst projects I've heard since we started the podcast. And so that's 64 weeks. That No Ceilings 2 specifically was like the worst project I heard. And it's crazy because like I listened to it for about 10, 12 hours. Like I'm re-listening to it. I'm just like, damn, am I really gonna listen to it again? And, but I'm so focused on trying to put out, something interesting that I gotta try to find these little nuggets. And yeah, it's hard when we do stuff like that, but it's just like when you have a regular job, it's just some weeks are harder than others. Some weeks when we, like Dave East, like we did Dave East for the first time, and that was my first time getting into Dave East. And it's like moments like that where it'd be like, damn, this dude Dave East is really getting busy on these tracks and really rapping his ass off. Moments like that really pays off. And it makes me feel better about moments like when I have to do Lil Wayne's No Ceilings 2. So it goes both ways.
That project was awful.
Yeah.
Well, see, because the funny thing was, I went back and listened to No Ceilings because I've always had like a love-hate relationship with Wayne, and so I went back and listened to No Ceilings. I'm like, maybe I should listen to No Ceilings too. So this is like last year, and then so I hit up Arctic and I was like, there were some songs on No Ceilings too that I wasn't really mad at, but then like listening to your episode, I'm like, damn, he has some good points. Like, why do I like this shit?
Yeah, because like what Wayne's signature is, he hops on other people's beats. He usually murders them. Well, at least like the early 2000 Wayne would. And with the No Ceilings 2, it's like if you're gonna do that, but your rapping ain't better than the original song, why would I listen to Wayne freestyle over these instrumentals where the original songs sound better? Right. It's just like, why waste your time at this point? But yeah, man, that No Ceilings 2, that was a rough week.
It seems like the T-God Mafia album was a rough week for you too, man. Like,
oh man,
16 tracks, and you said some of like the flyest / most scathing kind of YouTube moment-ish kind of shit when you said the only good part about that project was the album cover.
Hey, they did have a fly album cover. They could turn that shit into a T-shirt. Like, remember when Ed Hardy was those Hardy T-shirts were popping? Like, that's what that album cover by.
It does.
And the letters.
But did you guys get a chance to listen to that T-God album?
I didn't listen to it yet. It's something I've been meaning to get to because, I kind of like that.
Don't bother, man. Don't bother.
Well,
if you want to listen to it for like just to hear how old Juicy J sound on the album, like I would say listen to it for those reasons. I wouldn't get into it just to be like, oh, I want to listen to some hip hop. Let me put on this T-God album. But nah.
Well,
I mean, are you a Juicy J fan in general?
He's hit or miss with me. I'll say that. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, I love that ignorant shit that he coming with. Like, I love like just his jokiness and like things he delivered. But sometimes he just be sounding like mad old to me. and sometimes I can't get past it because he is mad old. He's been rapping my whole life, and like, and he was like a grown up when I was a baby.
Yeah.
So eventually time is gonna catch up with him. But for how how old Juicy J is, like I feel like he really be coming with it. I enjoyed the last album he dropped. I felt like for what it was, like it was a very enjoyable album just to put on while you drinking or having fun, stuff like that. And bitches love Juicy J, so that's always cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's somebody who, even though he spits like simplistic, kind of ignorant stuff a lot of times, when you really listen to him, he gets better lyrically, I guess, over time, but sometimes he just says more ridiculous things over time that doesn't fit with his age. So
Yeah.
it's like a weird contradiction there.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a weird relationship with Juicy J, and like I wasn't like I was never a 3-6 fan because like like we're from Baltimore, so 3-6 and Project Pat was like the thing that you listened to like when we were coming up in middle school and high school, and when he came out with Stay Trippy, I started liking him because of like the lyricism. I mean, I even kind of think that up to this point, Stay Trippy is probably like a borderline like trap album, like classic, because the lyricism on there. And so like I was really excited for the T-God Mafia album. And I was telling him like, this shit coming out, yada yada yada, and the shit was just garbage. Mm-hmm. It was. I was very upset. And then like all of Juicy J's mixtapes up to this point too, like all the ones from 2015 on up, have just been like whack. I don't know. Yeah. He needs to like chill out for a bit and maybe, I don't know, go back to the trap or something.
Yeah, maybe hang out with some people his age. Like I feel like Juicy J is like an old head at this point, just trying to hang out with these young dudes, do young things, but it's just like it doesn't make sense. Like when I hear his music, because I just be like, I know who Juicy J is. Mm-hmm. It's just like I don't want my 45-year-old homie popping pills and doing shit like that no more. Well, I want him to grow. I just want the best for Juicy J.
It must work for him. I mean, he looks like he hasn't aged a bit.
Yeah, but black don't crack, so so the grain of salt.
Yeah, that's true. I was wondering your thoughts, just to get on some like recent hip hop news or whatever. Were you a Dipset fan coming up?
Yeah, man. It was crazy. I wonder how Dipset was in the East because their movement on the West Coast, it was heavy. I remember I had this one Puerto Rican friend that moved out here from the East Coast, and he kind of put everybody up on Dipset. And man, I just think they had like the best instrumentals of all time. Anytime I listen to like a Dipset project, I'd be like, damn, yep, that makes sense why you would flip that. Damn, yep, that makes sense why you'll flip that. And Joel's, when I was really listening to Lil Wayne, Joel Santana, Lil Wayne were pretty much two of my favorite rappers.
Mm. Yeah, it would have been dope if that project that they were supposed to do would have, seen the light of day. But I think it's kind of crazy now because I don't know if you saw that Jim Jones interview with Funk Flex, and it's like, oh man, all that was going on back then, like we wouldn't have even known.
The one of him crying, where he cried.
Yeah.
I just seen the picture, and I was just like, damn, they got Jim Jones crying. I was like, oh, Michael face. That's all I could think of. But I definitely want to peep the interview because I fuck with Dipset, especially Jim Jones. I be watching Love and Hip Hop, and I be like, damn, like for how ridiculous this show is, I feel like the people that be on there from Dipset are able to like be on there and like save face and not just be on like some weird old foul shit that it seems like everybody else on the show is, and it just like reconfirms like how dope I think everybody in Dipset is.
Now like this is something that we've talked about in this podcast quite a bit, and it's Jewel's Santana's Town. What do you think about that song? Because I think it's one of the most off-kilter songs ever made in hip-hop, in the genre of hip-hop, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's weird because it's just kind of like all over the place. I'm on the boat with you. Like I don't really get it. How does your partner feel about it?
I mean, I think that it's like I remember back then I didn't really like it because it was like really noisy, and in the way that he raps, it is kind of disjointed. But I guess as I grow older, I kind of look at it as like modern abstract art, and it's like,
whoa,
you know, like
that's heavy, fam.
Like you know, stream of consciousness, just out there, kind of spacey, like, so I can, you know, appreciate it more from that perspective.
With that perspective in mind, as soon as I hop off this podcast, I will go back and listen to it and be like, you know, let me get some of that art.
Because like back in the day, I used to listen to it like he'd be like, cool man, dude friend. I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? But now I'm like, oh, he's just, you know, being very playful with the syllables and, you know, just doing different things that, you know, maybe we don't know what dimension he's in his mind.
I definitely what you said, so ahead of its time that, you know, we need time to catch up. So
I don't know, man. Like people understood it. I mean, the album went gold, and I mean, you couldn't go surf anywhere on none of the music channels of the. I guess the box was out, like MTV or especially like Rap City, without seeing that shit like at least twice.
Yeah. So my favorite, my joint was Jewel's second album. I think I was maybe what year? I think maybe I was sophomore in college when that came out, and he had Get On Your Grind, like Clockwork and Rumble, Young Man, Rumble, and like all those types of songs. Yeah. And that's when I, you know, really developed my appreciation for Jewels. And that was around the same time when J.R. Writer had those Squad Up mixtapes too. I don't know if you guys got the mixtapes like that out in Cali, but you know, Diplomats 1 through 5, and then J.R. Writer's Block series, and Hell Rel and all that. Like that was just an amazing time.
Yeah, we didn't really get none of the tapes like that, but we got like a lot of loose records. Like it would be like if it was good enough to somehow make it to the West Coast, that's where we got it. But like a lot of like the full projects, it was just really hard to get because most of us was getting our music like off LimeWire and shit like that. This is before like Dat Piff was really popping and shit like that. Yeah. So if I couldn't download it on LimeWire, it's pretty hard for me to get it.
Yeah, I remember those days trying to put together a mixtape based off of LimeWire, and you had to get the individual tracks and find a track list that was official and try to make your own, and the quality would be different from track to track.
Yeah, and LimeWire used to have this thing where it used to be so annoying. It'd be like Lil Wayne, Joel Santana, Fabulous, Jeezy, like all your favorite rappers on one song. It'd be like new track official. It'd just be like sounds of like people like fucking each other. Like damn, they got.
Yeah, that was
like the early Rick Roll and shit.
Yeah.
I remember. I can't remember what it was, because I think this was like a thing. It was some big album. Maybe it was a Gucci album. I don't know. I downloaded it, and it was nothing more than like Seinfeld, like Seinfeld.
Yeah, the internet was the worst, man.
Yeah. But this is something that another element that we talked about too, and like the whole streaming game, and you know, like I think at this point I've kind of come around to streaming a little bit because, you know, I use his Tidal account. The thing is though, you know, being like, you know, all of us being like hip hop heads, there are just certain things that you just can't get on streaming. So if you're looking for like the sequel, like to Dead Presidents, probably won't be on Spotify or anything like that. So, you know, like having like MP3 files and having hard drives for people like us is still important. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely get you. Like I have Apple Music right now, and for example, like the first Blueprint isn't available on there no more because, you know, it's on Tidal only. So it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying with like all these like streaming wars. Like the exclusive thing is like really annoying. So yeah, I'm on the same boat as y'all. Like I kind of figure out ways when it comes up to get around it, and if I really enjoy an album, I always just get the hard copy just in case. And what I do now, since like CDs are kind of like falling off, if I really enjoy an album, I try to like buy it on vinyl and just kind of have like a big, you know, square I could look at, like pull out some artwork. I could pull out the vinyl, just like look at this big ass like fucking thing that I own. It's like, yeah, because I really fuck with this album that much that I want a big version of it.
That's dope, man. I've been meaning to kind of get into that. Do you have like a big vinyl collection?
Not a big one, but it's growing. I just recently got Lil Wayne's Carter 2 on vinyl, which is like one of my favorite CDs of all time. Actually, my partner, Vontae the Pro, got it for me, so I was really juiced about that.
That's what's up, man.
I had no idea it was on vinyl.
Yeah, me neither.
And I guess I'm curious to know on the West Coast too. Around that same time as Dipset, you had G Unit, and I know Game. You know, he was one of the first huge West Coast rappers for a minute. So was like G Unit a really big thing over there?
Oh yeah, G Unit, that was a big thing everywhere. That was a big thing, like in Australia. The Unit for like a solid like 4 years couldn't be stopped. I remember in middle school, Stunt 101 came out, and like that shit was so tough that like we used to like argue over who was rapping which parts, like all my basketball team and shit. It was like all that's how like tough the Unit was, and it was perfect. It's so crazy how the market always like corrects itself. Like hip hop was getting like really soft with like all these Ja Rule records, and like how crazy it is that like the market just like overcorrects itself with G Unit and then kind of flips back. And like it's funny to watch like hip hop go through like all these waves of like what's in, what's not, like what's corny, what's old. Like it's great to sit back and like look at the big picture and just be like, damn, look at this ocean moving, and it's dope.
And you know, I was thinking like with you guys too, like you guys came at like the perfect time when it comes to just the state of hip hop in general, because if you guys came out like and did like a radio show at that time, like reviewing like, you know, albums from 2002, you wouldn't really have that much other than like, you know, G Unit mixtapes and like Dipset mixtapes, but like a lot of the mainstream shit just wasn't up to par compared to like how it is now, like the different genres with trap. Although you know, it's not your most favorite genre in the world, but it's much better than what it was in like 2005.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I find myself like finding things that I thought I didn't like, and like now like I feel like people are just mastering their craft at such a high level that like it's hard to like really put out whack shit nowadays when I'm like discovering like with like bigger artists, because there's just so much money pushed into hip hop that like I think it's just like you almost got to go out your way to put out some whack shit. You know, Metro Boom, like Metro Boomin is like if you have him on the track, like I personally don't love trap that much, but like his shit is fucking hard as hell. So it's like it's hard to have a sorry ass record when you have producers like putting out just like these beautiful beats. And it's a great time in hip hop. And then to expand on what you're saying about like when we started our podcast, what was like really dope and like I think perfect timing just kind of like fell in place with streaming. Now you really have people listening to like full albums and trying to like discover how they feel about it. Before, I feel like for you to listen to a whole album, you would have to go out and buy it, or at least hop on LimeWire, download it, get a burnt CD, burn it on the CD and listen to it. Now with like the accessibility of music with all these streaming sites, it's like everybody listening to these albums now. Before, like only hip hop people really listened to hip hop albums, and everybody else just kind of listened to like the singles that were on the radio. But now with streaming, everybody's listening to everything now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I can go back and listen to all the stuff I never got to hear when I was a kid because I couldn't afford it.
Word. Yeah. And then like what you were saying earlier with the Dipset mixtapes, a lot of them are up on Apple Music now, and I find myself going back and listening to like the whole thing because a lot of times I'm just listening to like loose records, and it's really dope to go back and listen to like full projects like that.
And you know, like, so with the streaming wars and all that kind of stuff, like I remember like going back to I know you're gonna hate this, the T-God Mafia album. I had to wait because I think there the exclusive was like on Apple Music or something, so I had to wait. But of course, I found a way to get it. But the thing is, though, when it comes like to you guys, do the streaming wars kind of mess up like your preparation for episodes? Like maybe you have Apple Music, or both of you guys have Apple Music, but it's on Tidal for like 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, like for example, when 2088 dropped, it only dropped exclusively on Tidal. And so what we ended up doing was we signed up for the free trial. And so we reviewed the 2088 off the free trial. And I forgot what album followed it up. But like it was like literally as I'm pretty sure Tidal set it up that way because it was like as soon as my 2088 free monthly subscription was up, like another big album dropped exclusively on Tidal. And I was like, you know what, man? I ain't paying for 2 fucking streaming services, dog. Like, fuck it, we ain't doing that episode. And it's just like, just a decision we had to make. We just had to cut our losses. So yeah, Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you have a preference when it comes to the streaming services? Like, I know you use Apple Music, but did you like Tidal when you had it?
No, I kind of felt maybe it's just because I use Apple Music that I'm used to it. But I felt like when I was using Tidal, like I felt like the platform wasn't like my favorite platform. Like I use Spotify too. Before I even used Apple Music. So I've been in all 3, and I felt like Tidal kind of had like the clunkiest platform. It was kind of weird to get around, and I didn't think it was that user-friendly.
I like that it has the videos and stuff. I don't know, they all had, like at one point I had all 3, and I have YouTube Red. So.
And UFC.
And yeah. But I like the Beats One thing because I discover things on Beats One radio that I probably would have never heard before. I like the video aspect, and Tidal has more exclusives that I'm used to, and then Spotify just has better suggestions that are gonna like pop up something. It's like, oh yeah, I did like that album. Let me listen to this.
Yeah, that's a great breakdown of the 3 streaming services. I would say Tidal do have the best exclusives. I'll give them that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out how to get the podcast on Spotify. Like, what Illuminati person do you have to hit up? Like, yo, let's get on this.
That's so funny that you brought that up because we are trying to do the same thing too. We are trying to get on Spotify. So if somehow you guys come up with that answer, let us know. And then if we do, we'll let you guys know.
Man, definitely appreciate it, man. Because, like, we're just trying to be on every platform. And, some of them they are a little exclusive, but, it's like we'll figure it out. I think Audible has podcasts on there, too, as well, or something. So it's just, always researching and trying to figure out, like, what's the next thing, what's the next platform, the next equipment, or anything like that, just to make the overall product better and still have time to live regular life. So
yeah,
not a lot of time for that, man.
Yeah.
Life is all about that balance, man. Just gotta try to find it between podcasts and work and just living your everyday life.
Yeah. And
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, and then with us, we both do music as well, and then so it's like, oh man, like editing this, trying to do some music, it's like when are we ever gonna sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he does the editing, and I do like all of like the curation with guests, or and just talking with different guests. So like you were talking to me, and so trying to figure out different schedules, having a calendar for like the podcast and having a calendar like for my regular shit. It can be a bit much, and then like I think right now, since like in our personal lives, like things are kind of going pretty well. So then like the podcasts have been taking kind of like a back seat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, it feels bad when you have to or end up skipping a week.
No, I hear you because sometimes when we be skipping a week, I'm like, damn, this what freedom feel like? This shit is nice. Man, I forgot how good doing nothing is.
Yeah, man, and and I think like with a lot of people, like they don't really see like how like this shit, it can be hard work, just the preparation and everything like that. Like, but I'm pretty sure like if they see us like in person, because we really don't get to do podcasts in person like that. But we're just kind of sitting around drinking and just talking shit. But the shit is kind of working. And I know like you guys sip on like Mickey's or whatever like that. But no one can really see that preparation that goes into these things.
Yeah, it's like it's funny because as a consumer, all you do, you subscribe to it or you put it down on your other and you manually download it, and it's just like you just consume. It's like you don't even think about like anything, which you shouldn't, but when you in this, you understand. Like sometimes I'd be listening and be like, damn, I wonder if he just came up with that idea off the top, or are they just discussing like with each other, or does he prep? Like when I'm listening to podcasts now, I find myself like wondering like about people's process and like what are they prepping, or is everything just spitball off the top of the dome? And shit, I don't know. I know we prep, so.
What are some of your favorite podcasts to listen to?
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah. I used to really love Brilliant Idiots, but like lately, like it's just been kind of weird for me. I used to love Brilliant Idiots because like they used to just bullshit, like cap on each other, talk about like fat girls they like fucked, and like for some reason like I just like really enjoy it, just like stupid shit like that. And like now that like the show's like super political, I kind of like fell back on it because like sometimes I'd be like, man, they kind of don't really know what they talking about.
Yeah.
But sometimes I listen to like Bill Simmons podcasts. I listen to like revisionist history. I like a lot of sports stuff, like the Low Post and Jalen and Jacoby and shit like that, and like just a little small stuff. I like I Am Rappaport podcast, like, and yeah, that's about it. I hop into y'all every now and then, and Strictly Hip Hop by Chris Platty. He's like one of my podcast friends. I'd be checking in on too. But yeah, that's what I listen to. What about y'all? What are you guys bumping? Any suggestions?
Me, I listen to. I mean, it's a wide range. Like I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to Dan Carlin, Hardcore History, Planet Money from NPR. I listen to Brilliant Idiots, Tax Stone, Joe Budden, all most of the hip hop type of podcasts. Not like every episode, but certain ones that might stick out. What else? Trying to look at my downloads here.
Get my shit ready too.
Just sometimes it might be some Race Wars and a lot of like the comedy podcast stuff you should know, like educational stuff and some local type stuff too. So it's pretty cool because it's like you can learn things a lot of times on the go and catch up on the politics and the science of the week. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, his is really good too. On the physics and stuff.
With me, so I think my range is much more narrow because at one point I would listen to all these kinds of podcasts and it was just too much like data overload for my brain. So,
I hear that.
Yeah, so like I think like one of the main ones is like Juan Epstein.
Yeah.
So Juan Epstein, like for my little tech kind of nerdy shit, I listen to like the Jay and Farhad show. I listen to like Planet Money, which I think is like one of the best podcasts around. A waste of time with It's the Real because they're just kind of like funny as shit.
Yeah.
And On the Media, another NPR show, and then I think finally a startup, which is like Gimlet Media, and like just going to like the whole. It's a podcast about starting a podcast. So it's just dope.
That's funny to hear like your guys' podcast selection because especially compared to mine, because I feel like your guys, like the podcasts you guys choose to listen to are like podcasts to stay informed and know what's going on. I feel like your guys' podcast is more like, trying to inform people on different things, the person you're interviewing that day. And then like the podcasts I listen to mainly just be like, so I could be entertained. I feel like the podcasts I have, like we're not really, we want to inform, but like we really just want to have a good time and like entertain while you listen to us. So it's kind of funny, like tone wise of like the podcast you guys like, and then like I feel like the tone of podcast that you guys put out, and then like the tone of podcast I listen to, and like kind of like the tone of the podcast that like I put out kind of go hand in hand in a way.
Yeah, it's like a balance, because it just definitely shows that there are a diversity of things that you can do and still be in the same space. It's kind of weird listening to so many podcasts. I've noticed that I don't listen to music as much.
Yeah.
So it like interferes with my music listening. It's like, oh, there's an album I was really excited for, but then it's like, here's a whole episode that's probably longer than the album.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's weird, but yeah, I mean, we have different types of episodes, I think, because a lot of times we just come in, like, like especially on our no guest episodes, we just come in and talk about whatever's going on in our lives, and it just kind of goes free flowing. We might have a couple bullet points here and there, but we just kind of just go. And then, our guest episodes, there's a bit more, preparation with that and structure. And then we just kind of go off of what the guest has. And depending on who it is, try to get, different information out. Like we've had politicians and different artists and stuff like that. And those can be nerve wracking sometimes because you don't want to look stupid.
Yeah. I would say your guys' guest range is almost as wide as your guys' podcast selection.
We had DeRay McKesson and Schoolie D and Gemstones.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope, and it makes sense because in the age of information, social media, like everybody's paying attention to everything. So like you can have all those things on one platform, and it makes sense.
Yeah, and like I think what you were saying like a bit earlier, just like the kind of high that you get from like people hitting you up on Twitter, and I know that you guys made it to the iTunes charts quite a few times, and like with us, at one point, I remember I was trying to get like the guests who I thought would be like more susceptible to come on the podcast when we first started, and like no one would hit us up, and now it's kind of getting to the point that every so often we have people that hit us up about being on the podcast, so. It's mad flattering, just like the work, that grind, and you keep putting it in, and we've been around for like almost 3 years now, so it's fucking dope. Well, 2, yeah.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, to just know that your hard work is paying off, man, it's crazy how far that can take you.
Yeah. I feel like in a weird way, I feel like having like at least this kind of platform, it kind of builds a certain kind of character. In a weird way.
Where I definitely understand what you're saying with that, because I feel with talking to like a partner like once a week for like an extended amount of time, like it makes me better at really trying to understand what somebody is saying. That way I could like respond and have something back to say to them, and like just kind of really help my everyday life, like communicating with people and shit like that. So I definitely hear you with that.
Yeah, like at my regular job, at least when I was younger, no one really never told me I was personable, and so now like I'm talking with people who I really don't give a fuck to talk to, and I just ask them like a certain question, and they're like, no one's never asked me that question before. You're like really personable. Like, how did you develop this? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now that you guys mention that, I'm like, wow, I'm not personable either. And sometimes I wonder, like, why do people seem to like me? Maybe that's it.
It's because once a week you put out our podcast where you try to be likable. It's just learned behavior. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, that would be an interesting psychological study.
I'm sure NPR is working on it right now.
Yeah. Podcast will make you more personable. How podcasting can help your friendship.
Man, we might have to write an article on that and put it on Medium.
Word.
Man, but it's really cool, having this platform. Have you discovered anything new? I know you said Dave East, but are there any other things that you probably wouldn't have listened to before that you got into?
Let me take a look. Dave East was definitely a person that I never listened to. That was my biggest surprise. Mm. We've done like little artists, like not little artists, but smaller artists. I'm trying to think of his name. Kind of sounds like Kyle. Have you guys ever heard of Kyle?
Oh, I listened to that podcast actually. Yeah, I've never heard of that guy until you guys had that episode.
Yeah, so like we hear and then like now he's running with like Chance the Rapper. He kind of sounds like Chance the Rapper, which is funny. But yeah, like we listened to him, which was it was cool just to hear like artists that are growing. And then we did a review on this artist. Trying to think of his name, I'm blanking now. Hoodie Allen.
Okay, I've heard of him.
And then he's like that in between of like breaking through, but he's pretty famous still. Like he rapping is his job in life. And after we reviewed his podcast, his album, which was dope, was since he's still a growing artist himself, he reached out to us and was like, "Hey, I checked out your guys' podcast. I thought you made some good points. On the next album, I'm definitely going to try to think about what you guys said." And I was just like, "Oh, damn.
Wow."
Yeah, and then like that's kind of like the dope thing about like working with artists that are like just like not super established, that like, when you do things with them, it means a little bit more, and you can kind of have a back and forth, which is like super ill.
Wow, that's dope, man. And you just being able to reach out and they reach out to you and have those relationships, like that's the type of thing that I guess as time goes on, it's going to separate you from like the average person who looks at people like, oh, this big celebrity, and oh my goodness, I could never imagine talking to them. And it's like, oh, well, I have his number right here.
Yeah.
Another thing about what you guys do, and which I think is like really honest, and I think a lot of people they don't really realize that we always go into like listening to certain albums with preconceived notions. So I do like how you guys like before you even talk about it, you sit down and try to like you kind of try to explain to the audience you guys' mindset going into the album.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, and like because I was telling Arctic that I finally listened to Tribe's album. Like, I'm really behind. Like, but I finally listened to Tribe's album, so because of that, I feel like really up to date right now. And I liked it a lot. And so I remember like hitting them up saying, "Oh, track 5, this is my shit, whatever, going back and listening to it." But the thing was, thinking about it now, I had such low expectations for that album that maybe unconsciously when I'm listening to it, it's just the fact that in my head I'm like, oh, well, I thought this song was going to suck anyway, just based on like the title. So maybe I really don't like it.
Yeah, yeah, that extra perspective seems to go a long way. And like me personally, like I didn't even know that somebody would take it like that, the way you taking it. But now that you're saying it, it's like, damn, that makes so much sense. We just did it just because, And it's great to hear your breakdown, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot.
No doubt.
Yeah, man. I thought one funny thing was when you were talking about the J. Cole album, that song "Folding Clothes," and it's funny because we talked about that, and I'm just sitting here like I have trouble wrapping my head around it, because it has a nice little melody, a nice little beat, but it's like, man. And then you said about how he was probably sitting around with some famous people who don't live regular lives. Like, man, that would be dope to do. But he was like, nah, man, my girl's clothes mad wrinkly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because like when rappers try to like relate to like the everyday people, and sometimes they miss the ball. I think like that Folding Clothes is an example of it. It's just like I feel like when they were like recording it, like it just seems so meaningful. Like it's just gonna do these simple things, but like living the everyday life, majority of the time you just doing the simple things. Like so it doesn't mean that much, but like to somebody famous that's on tour, like Folding Clothes is just like some fucking Superman patch that they doing and shit, and it's super funny to like hear it play out like in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, and see, and I guess I'm gonna sound old as fuck, but like I miss like the warm up J. Cole, man. Like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate him like evolving. That's what you're supposed to do, but like he just kind of sounds like a moralizing dick now. Like, I listened to stuff like Folding Clothes again and stuff like that, and I went like into this weird wormhole. Like you did various YouTube videos, and I watched this some type of live song. I don't even know what it was, but I guess like in the concert, he was sitting on top of like a little prop, like a Forest Hills kind of house.
The HBO special.
Yeah, which I was not going to watch, but I did. So I watched it, and the song's about like him telling people that they don't need money to be happy. Although he has money. Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you can't be saying this type of shit. Like,
yeah. I feel like Cole's like trajectory as an artist like changed so much from like the warm up. Like I feel like he started off like as like a bar rapper, like he's gonna hit you with bars over the head, and his writing was just super witty, and now he's more like a soulful artist that's like just trying to like touch people's insides all the time. And it's like a pretty big change from like the J. Cole that you mentioned to start with.
Yeah, and it can be a bit hit and miss. I like how 2014 Forest Hills Drive had more of a balance with it. Like he had the harder tracks on it, and then he had some of the more soulful ones where he might just sing a whole track. And it's like on this one, it's like now he's just singing the whole track, and then another one, and then another one, and there's one hard one, and then another one. Yeah,
you don't have no records like "Get Off My Dick," to like kind of balance out like some of like the heavy stuff that he's bringing.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. It's like it'll be interesting moving forward. I always wonder who's going to be that next one, because J. Cole is up there and Kendrick is up there. I guess the quote unquote traditional lyricists who are able to break out and have that commercial success. I guess Chance is next, and then maybe we'll get thinking of somebody. There's Chance and
T-God Mafia.
Juicy J again.
Oh man, no, definitely not him, but it's interesting now. Like I was gonna say, Big Sean. It seems like he's finally gonna have his moment.
How y'all feel about Big Sean, man? I feel like he's a polarizing artist.
I remember back when his first mixtapes came out. I forgot what they were called, but he had like 3 volumes of them.
Finally Famous ones.
Yeah. Finally Famous 1 and 2 I didn't like, and then I saw him live. He was opening up for Wale way back, and the song sounded good, and I was like, oh man, this is dope. So then let me go back and listen to the mixtape. I was like, that doesn't sound good on the mixtape. And then he changed the game with that flow that everybody did for like 2 years, where you say something.
Flow.
Yeah, the hashtag flow. So that was a big impact. I think he just steadily improves. Like he gets better and better every time as a lyricist. I like his songs more and more. I think his first album was more so production was dope, and the actual content was hit or miss, and then it just got better and better as time went on. So now I can legit say I'm a fan, and then when he gets with Janae and they do the 2088 thing, I think that's a perfect match as well.
I hear that.
I mean, I still haven't listened to 2088, but I mean, like I liked Blessed, and like I did like some things off like that the Finally Famous series, but he was never someone that I exactly checked for. But I remember I think it was on a waste of time with this surreal. They had like I think Mike Posner on, and Mike Posner kind of talked about his relationship with like Big Sean, and pretty much like half of his interview was about Big Sean, like his come up. And so I gained a particular kind of respect for him. I mean, I was kind of surprised he's still around, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because he was around the time. I mean, when you look at those old freshman covers and stuff like that, you look at everybody who kind of fell by the wayside, and it's like some people used to listen to, like Charles Hamilton, for instance. Like he just dropped a new album, which I listened to the first couple tracks. I gotta really get through it, but it's like man. Yeah, he was supposed to be here now, and
Hey, Charles
he got too weird.
Charles Hamilton is a borderline genius. What do you think about Charles Hamilton?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. It's just like I think that fine line between genius and crazy is extremely thin, and I think he's leaning more on crazy, but at moments, like, he really do have moments of genius in his music, but he just leans too much with that Sonic Hedgehog thing. Like, it's really hard to get over that. Like, every time I see him, I'm like, so you know, I can't get over it, and it's like always stuck in my head. And like musically, he could be like delivering like the best shit I've ever heard, and I could just be like, Sonic the Hedgehog though.
Man, I don't know, man.
So it's hard. It's hard.
I mean, he has like kind of like a. I mean, the gimmick is kind of clever. Like we always talk about that song, "The Last of the Mauritians," and like if you research like Mauritians, they were like on an island called Sega or some shit like that, which is dope as fuck.
Well, it was like the island of Mauritania, which is off of Madagascar, but then Maurice is Sonic's real name or something, and so he connected Sonic to some African stuff in real life, and then they have their own genre of music that he sampled for it, and it was dope.
Yeah, like it makes sense like when you explain it, but it's just like there's not enough people into that, you know, that it's just gonna go over most people's heads. I know it went over mine. You know, even when you guys explain it, it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but that shit's still crazy to me.
Well, it is kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's like, but then too, you have certain artists who are able to maintain, and they go over your head all the time. Like, I'm thinking about Lupe, which I'm probably gonna listen to his new album today. But like, you listen to his last album, and it's super dense lyrically, and you have to like get into it. And you know, he hasn't. I mean, he's not where he once was, but he hasn't gone the way of Charles Hamilton. So I'm wondering, like, at what point is it where you go overboard, or like a Cannabis or something like that? Like,
I think Lupe just put in so much work that he built like so much goodwill that like even when he does put out dense albums, that like he gets the benefit of the doubt, and like people are still thinking about Food and Liquor Lupe or The Cool Lupe. Like those albums really mean a lot to people. So when he's putting out albums that like are super like lyrical, like he built so much goodwill that people are willing to do that digging with his music and get that payoff. Where like Charles Hamilton, where, you know, for most people, they've only heard like a couple records from him. And so when you tell them you're going to have to do this digging for this information that he's really spitting out like these genius bars, that most people are just going to be like, for Charles Hamilton, nah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that and just drug use also.
Yeah.
I was thinking too, you just made me think of something about people digging into lyrics and stuff like that. I have a theory that most people really don't like rap. Like, you know, they'll like something that comes on with a Mike Will beat or something like that. But I was talking to my girl, and she was critiquing some of my music, and she was like, you don't ever listen to anything that I say, so I don't say anything about your music anymore. It's like, no, I listen, but we're in the car and something from Illmatic comes on, and you're like, that's whack. And then like something from you know, I think Dead Presidents came on, so I had to do this with a third party here. So her sister was there, and her sister knows a bit more. So I go to Tidal and I start playing some Illmatic, and I was like, she says that this is whack, so why should I listen to her opinion on like anything? And so she's like, well, maybe I really don't like rap, because I feel like I shouldn't have to dig for a meaning in something. It should be very apparent. And if I don't get the meaning directly, then you didn't do your job as a lyricist. So I thought that was an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah, I think it's just like the reason why we have so many different versions of hip hop is because of that reason. Some people enjoy the digging, like Ab-Soul album. Mm-hmm. I was talking to this dude about Ab-Soul album. I said, I just can't like it. It just sounds like nerd rap to me when I listen to it. And like, I understand like what he's saying is like super deep, and there's a lot of things to peel back from it. But like, it just feel like homework when I'm listening to it. And then he was just like, I love that shit. I love that if it's like harder to understand. And it's just like, but that's the reason why there's so many different lanes in hip hop, is because some people, they want it apparent, and some people, they love to dig.
Yeah. I think Rascast is another one of those type of rappers too. I was just thinking about him. It's like, I think I played something, and you know, my girl said, "This sounds like somebody's lecturing to me."
Oh, nature of the threat.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah. I didn't want a class, so yeah, I guess yeah, a lot of times you do want it up front and the parent not have to dig, but I guess it's important to know that it doesn't make anything less hip hop or whatever.
Word, yeah, great point.
But yeah, man, I really enjoy just kicking it and talking music with you, man.
Yeah, this was fun, man. This was dope.
Yeah, man. We gotta definitely get up and do this again sometime.
Yeah, whenever you guys ready, or if you guys want to try to collab over on the album or something, definitely hit us up.
Yeah, man, no doubt. Yeah, if you have an album, maybe we can all come together and pick an album and get into it on yours one day.
Maybe some old Dipset shit.
Yeah,
maybe a throwback. We'll get some West Coast dudes and then some East Coast dudes that have been living on the album for like half their life. We'll see where that take us.
No doubt, man. Well, man, thank you so much for gracing our podcast, man. We definitely appreciate it. Let people know where they can reach you and how to listen to your show.
Oh, yeah. If you want to listen to more of my opinions or my thoughts, you can find me at a Hip Hop Review Podcast, just like pretty much wherever you get your podcasts is at, except for Spotify, which we learned earlier in this episode. Just search Hip Hop Review Podcast. We pretty much review like most mainstream albums that drop. Our podcast aims to be like a light listen, just easy to get through. And if you want to hit us up on Twitter, you can find us at HHR_pod. We team follow back over here. So if you want to come and follow us and you weird about your numbers, don't trip. We follow back. So yeah, you can find us on Twitter and wherever you find podcasts.
All right, man. That's what's up. Hip Hop Review Podcast, Channel 10 Podcast. We in the building and we out. Peace.
Hey.
Feeling this here.
Yeah, son, you feel it, man. What up, son? You gotta just do it, yo. Yo, what up, man? It's a different channel, son. What up, on, man? What up? Watch the channel, son. Different plane now, man.
It's all good.
What up? All good, baby, in every hood, son. What up, yo? CNN, Network, Channel 10. It's on again. Street niggas, it's grown men. Bold face, gat in your face. Stay in place, yo. Crime lace. Cast more beef than Scarface. CNN, Network, Channel 10, it's on again. Street niggas, that's grown men. Bold face, gat in your face. Stay in place, yo, crime lace. Cast more